Morena Koto, welcome to today's story time. Hey, I hope you guys are doing well and enjoyed the great weather that we had yesterday. It's great to see a bunch of new people who are joining us today for story time. So that is absolutely fantastic. Right, today we're going to be reading this story. We don't eat our classmates, and we'll continue on with James and the Giant Peach. So, first up, We Don't Eat Our Classmates by Ryan T. Higgins. Penelope Rex was nervous. It's not every day a little T Rex starts school. The fact that it's a T Rex, I'm a little bit worried. What are my classmates going to be like? Will they be nice? How many teeth will they have? This was very important. Penelope's mum bought her a new backpack with ponies on it. Ponies were Penelope's favorite because ponies are delicious. Eek. Penelope's dad packed her a lunch of 300 tuna sandwiches and one apple juice. Finally, the big day came. And Penelope Rex was very surprised to find out that all her classmates were children. So she ate them because children are delicious. Penelope Rex, said Mrs. Noodleman, we don't eat our classmates. Please spit them out at once. So she did. There's a shoe hanging by the shoelace. It was not the best way to start school. Still, Penelope was determined to have a good first day. If you can see closely, there's a whole lot of dinosaur spit there. And dinosaur goobs. Gross. She tried hard to make friends at break time. She finger painted some of her best work. She even saved Griffin Emery a seat for lunch. You can sit here. Penelope started to notice everyone was making friends but her, and it was lonely. When she got home, her dad asked her about her first day at school. I didn't make any friends, Penelope cried. None of the children wanted to play with me. Penelope Rex, her father asked, did you eat your classmates? Well, maybe sort of just a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to make friends, said her dad, especially if you eat them. You see, Penelope, children are the same as us on the inside, just tastier. That gave Penelope a lot to think about. The next day, Penelope tried really hard. But poor Penelope, she could not stop herself from eating her classmates. Mrs. Noodleman, Penelope ate William Amoto again. And they were all afraid of her. Except Walter. Now, Walter was a goldfish. So Penelope tried to make friends with him. Will you be my friend? Look where her hand is. Jump! Cried Penelope. He's eating my finger! Ah! Once Penelope found out what it was like to be someone's snack, she lost her appetite for children. The big plaster on her finger there. She stopped eating her classmates, even when Cece Woodman spilled barbecue sauce all over herself. And soon Penelope made friends. Found you! Want brownie? I help make them. Now, even when children look especially delicious, she peeks at Walter and remembers what it's like when someone tries to eat you. And Walter, the goldfish, stares right back and licks his lips. Because dinosaurs are delicious. That is a really, really cool story. I've never seen that one before, but that is that is awesome. Just the idea of just seeing a shoe dangling out and then kids being spat out. That's pretty funny. All right, chapter 6. Last time, yesterday, James was given a whole bunch of these like magic beans or magic things, and he fell over and spilt them all, and they went into the ground. But then, let's find out what's going to happen. Sponge! Come here at once and look at this! And what? It's a peach! Aunt Spiker was shouting. A what? A peach right up here on the highest branch. Can't you see it? I think you must be mistaken, my dear Spiker. That miserable tree never has any peaches on it. There's one on it now, Sponge. Look for yourself. You're teasing me, Spiker. You're making my mouth water on purpose when there's nothing to put into it. Why, that tree's never even had a blossom on it, let alone a peach. Right up on the highest branch, you say. I can't see a thing. Very funny, ha ha. Good gracious me, well, I'll be blowed. There really is a peach up there. A nice big one too, Aunt Spiker said. A beauty, Aunt Sponge cried out. At this point, James slowly put down his chopper and turned and looked across at the two women who were standing underneath the peach tree. Something is about to happen, he told himself. Something peculiar is about to happen any moment. He hadn't the faintest idea what it might be, but he could feel it in his bones, that something was going to happen soon. He could feel it in the air around him, in the sudden stillness that had fallen upon the garden. James tiptoed a little closer to the tree. The aunts were not talking now. They were just standing there staring at the peach. There was not a sound anywhere, not even a breath of wind, and overhead the sun blazed down them out of a deep blue sky. It looks right to me, Aunt Spiker said, breaking the silence. Then why don't we eat it? Aunt Sponge suggested, licking her thick lips. We can have half each. Hey, you, James, come over here at once and climb the tree. James came running over. I want you to pick that peach up on the highest branch, Aunt Sponge went on. Can you see it? Yes, Auntie Sponge, I can see it. And don't you dare eat any of yourself. Your Aunt Spiker and I are going to have it between us right here and now. Half each. Get on up. Up you go. James crossed over to the tree trunk. Stop, Aunt Spiker said quickly. Hold everything. She was staring up into the branches with her mouth wide open, her eyes bulging as though she had seen a ghost. Look, she said. Look, Sponge, look. What's the matter with you? Aunt Sponge demanded. It's growing, Aunt Spiker cried. It's getting bigger and bigger. What is? The peach, of course. You're joking. Well, look for yourself. But my dear Spiker, that's perfectly ridiculous. That's impossible. That's... Now, Joe, wait just a minute. No, you can't be right. No, yes, great Scott. The thing really is growing. It's nearly twice as big already, Aunt Spiker shouted. It can't be true. It is true. It must be a miracle. Watch it. I am watching it. Great heavens alive, Aunt Spiker yelled. I can actually see the thing bulging and swelling before my very eyes. Chapter 7. The two women and the small boy stood absolutely still on the grass underneath the tree, gazing up at this extraordinary fruit. James' little face was glowing with excitement. His eyes were as big and bright as two stars. He could see the peach swelling larger and larger, as clearly as if it were a balloon being blown up. In half a minute, it was the size of a melon. In another half minute, it was twice as big again. Just look at it growing, Aunt Spiker cried. Will it ever stop? Aunt Sponge shouted, waving her fat arms and starting to dance around in circles. And now it was so big it looked like an enormous butter-colored pumpkin dangling from the top of the tree. Get away from that tree trunk, you stupid boy, Aunt Spiker yelled. The slide is shaking. I'm sure it'll fall off. It must weigh 20 or 30 pounds at least. The branch that the peach was growing upon was beginning to bend over further and further because of the weight. Stand back, Aunt Sponge shouted. It's coming down. The branch is going to break. But the branch didn't break. It simply bent over more and more as the peach got heavier and heavier. And still it went on growing. In another minute, this mammoth fruit was as large and round and fat as Aunt Sponge herself, and probably just as heavy. It has to stop now, Aunt Spiker yelled. It can't go on forever. But it didn't stop. Soon it was the size of a small car and reached halfway to the ground. Both aunts were now hopping around and round the tree, clapping their hands and shouting all sorts of things in their excitement. Hallelujah! Aunt Spiker shouted. What a peach! What a peach! Terrifical! Aunt Sponge cried. Magnifico! Splendifico! And what a meal! It's still growing. I know. As for James, he was so spellbound by the whole thing, he could only stand and stare and murmur quietly to himself. Oh, isn't it beautiful? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Shut up, you little twerp, Aunt Spiker snapped, happening to overhear. It's none of your business. That's right, Aunt Sponge declared. It's got nothing to do with you whatsoever. Keep out of it. Look, Aunt Spiker shouted. It's growing faster than ever now. It's speeding up. I see it, Spiker. I do. Bigger and bigger grew the peach. Bigger and bigger and bigger. Then at last, when it had become nearly as tall as the tree that it was growing on, as tall and wide, in fact, as a small house, the bottom part of it gently touched the ground, and there it rested. It can't fall off now, Aunt Sponge shouted. It stopped growing, Aunt Spiker cried. No, it hasn't. Yes, it has. It's slowing down, Spiker. It's slowing down. But it hasn't stopped yet. You watch it. There was a pause. It has now. I believe you're right. Do you think it's safe to touch it? I don't know. We'd better be careful. Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker began walking slowly round the peach, inspecting it very cautiously from all sides. They were like a couple of hunters who had just shot an elephant and were not quite sure whether it was dead or alive. And the massive round fruit towered over them so high that they looked like midgets from another world beside it. The skin of the peach was very beautiful, a rich buttery yellow with patches of brilliant pink and red. Aunt Sponge advanced cautiously and touched it with the tip of one finger. It's ripe, she cried. It's just perfect. Now look here, Spiker. Why don't we go and get a shovel right now and dig out a great big chunk of it for you and me to eat? No, Aunt Spider said, not yet. Why ever not? Because I say so. But I just can't wait to eat some, Aunt Sponge cried out. She was watering at the mouth now, and a thin trickle of spit was running down one side of her chin. My dear Sponge, Aunt Spiker said slowly, winking at her sister and smiling a sly, thin-lipped smile. There's a pile of money that can be made out of this if we handle it right. You wait and see. Sorry, folks, I'm just trying not to sneeze here. Chapter 8. This will be our last chapter for the day. The news that a peach almost as big as a house had suddenly appeared in someone's garden spread like wildfire across the countryside. The next day, a stream of people came scrambling up the steep hill to gaze upon this marvel. Quickly, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker called in carpenters, and they built a strong fence around the peach to save it from the crowd. And at the same time, these two crafty women stationed themselves at the front gate with a large bunch of tickets and started charging everyone for coming in. Roll up, Aunt Spiker yelled. Only 1 shilling to see the giant peach. Half price for children under 6 weeks old, Aunt Sponge shouted. One at a time, please. Don't push. You're all going to get in. Hey, you, come back here. You haven't paid. By lunchtime, The whole place was a seething mass of men and women and children, all pushing and shoving to get a glimpse of the miraculous fruit. Helicopters were landing like wasps all over the hill, and out of them poured swarms of newspaper reporters, cameramen, and men from the television companies. "It'll cost you double to bring in a camera," Aunt Spiker shouted. All right, they answered. "We don't care." And the money came rolling into the pockets of the two greedy aunts. But while all this excitement was going on outside, poor James was forced to stay locked in his bedroom, peeping through the bars of his window at the crowds below. "The disgusting little brute will only get in everyone's way if we let him wander about," Aunt Spiker had said early that morning. "Oh, please," he had begged. "I haven't met any other children for years and years, and there are going to be lots of them down there for me to play with, and perhaps I can help you with the tickets." "Shut up," Aunt Sponge had snapped. "Your Aunt Spiker and I are about to become millionaires, and the last thing we want is the likes of you messing things up and getting in the way." Later, when the evening of the first day came, and the people had all gone home, the aunts unlocked James's door and ordered him to go outside and pick up all the banana skins and orange peel and bits of paper the crowd had left behind. "Could I please have something to eat first?" he asked. "I haven't had a thing all day." "No," they shouted, kicking him out of the door. "We're too busy to make food. We're all counting our money." "But it's dark," cried James. "Get out," they yelled, "and stay out until you've cleaned up the mess." The door slammed. The key turned in the lock. Well, that is all for today. We'll carry on next week. Now, we're not too sure what's going to be happening, whether we're going to still be in lockdown or whatever, but we'll keep you informed as to that. And we'll be talking to our school community about what's going to happen a bit later today. Anyway, enjoy your day today. Thank you so much for joining us for story time. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll catch up with you on Monday. All right, ka kite anō.